Anyways, let's move on. We've got a special guest joining us today to talk about the controversial The Batman. We have Erick Weber of Awards Ace is joining us. Eric, how's it going, man?
Good morning. I'm still in bed. You wanted me on 30 minutes ago. Alan, Chris is texting me, and he's like, listen, we need you to come on. We're going straight up at 9. I'm like, listen, man, give me a minute to have a couple Diet Mountain Dews, just chill out, take a shower, get ready for the gym. That's my start of my day. So now I'm sort of ready to talk to you guys.
Well, you've been blowing up you do these regular spaces on your Twitter, which I believe your Twitter account is like at Erick Weber, right? Is that right?
That is correct. It's my name.
Yeah.
But and some say though it's my initials are EW. So the trolling path that most take is this Entertainment Weekly? Yeah, like those aren't my initials, and they haven't been since I was born on planet Earth. But yes, that is my Twitter handle, ERICKWEBER.
Well, occasionally, Eric, I know you get a lot of directors that talk to you that will leak you information. This is sort of outside of the realm of what Film Threat. We don't normally talk about rumors, except this is about the Batman. And can I just say, I was at Target, and yes, the toys are already out. The toys are out. You can see here they are. They're already here.
Does it look like Pattinson?
It does look like Pattinson. So. Yeah, they're out. They're out. They're in the wild now. You can find, and the toys honestly they look pretty cheap to me. I don't know if I'm.
Ooh, Eric just dropped off.
There you go. Oh, Eric just dropped off. He'll be back.
Yeah.
So
there's a controversy. Okay, so I'm so busy with Film Threat. There is a controversy going on.
Well, no, it's not a controversy. What it is there's effectively what happened was Eric wrote some tweets, and I'm going to show you what they are.
Okay.
And Eric's going to join us. Oh, here, Eric's back. Yeah, hey, man. Back. So we're talking about this tweet that you put out. So someone contacted you who saw the film, and they described it. If I can actually I'll read this tweet that you posted. You said, received a text from a source who's seen the Batman, calling it a complex film, comparing it to Zodiac, Chinatown, The Usual Suspects, The Silence of the Lambs. Source also stating it will be controversial and people will discuss it endlessly. Thoughts. Now, thoughts turned into every nerd media outlet. Comicbookmovie.com is right here, picked up the story and basically just quoted your tweet, which got everybody talking. I have concerns now, having heard what you said, and I know that you kind of gave just sort of a general what was relayed to you. Can you elaborate, Eric, my friend?
I don't want to. Listen, let me tell you why is we've had this discussion many times on Spaces. Alan, we've had this discussion over drinks at awards parties. For me, when I talk about a movie, I want to talk about it in the most general terms possible so that we don't really ruin anything. And the more you drill down into what the details are, the more that you're going to have your virginal experience of watching the Batman ruined. And the point of this was, and this is a very long text that I received. I mean, it is much more details than what I laid out there. But the point of it is that this is going to be a Batman that is very dark, very brooding, a detective story, and it is drawing its influences on the films you just, read. Those are, it's basically, from all indications, when I read this and really think about what's happening here and what Matt Reeves did, I believe he made a David Fincher-esque version of The Dark Knight. So it's in very little humor, if any. And I think, the reason it's going to be controversial is just because of that. A lot of people still want to have some fun with their Batman. This is not going to be that film. From what I'm hearing, that is not what you're going to get at all, which I'm good with. But there are going to be other people who are not good with that.
Well, the humor, the lack of humor, I mean, you mentioned that. We were talking about it last night because you were at the AMC Burbank, but you saw a different movie. What was the movie you saw?
We saw Death on the Nile. So it was the first screen of Death on the Nile, which comes out next week. There's an embargo for that, so I can't really discuss it. I can only say this. Death of the Nile comes out February 11th. We all know that movies that come out in January and February are just okay, right? That's the bar. Is just you're going to get an okay movie, and I would say that's where we are with Death on the Nile. But I cannot say anything else. But yes, saw Death on the Nile. And speaking of GameStop, saw that last week. I was the only person in the theater for GameStop. The one person, and I was like, oh my god! I mean, kudos to Neon for at least putting something in theaters. There was nothing new last weekend.
Yeah.
So but Death and Now comes out next week. Moonfall was this week, along with Jackass, which you saw. And have you already talked about that? I imagine you already.
Oh yeah, we already talked about Jackass, but
but
the Batman tickets go on sale next week on February 10th. I'm just gonna buy a bunch of them and then just see who needs tickets, who among my friends actually needs tickets. But what were some of your impressions, without like giving away more of what's in the text? But because what happened was your tweet ended up just like trending. It started this whole other conversation. My concern is, one, every Batman, even the Chris Nolan Batman movies, had humor, right? Like, does it come in black, right? There are just a couple key lines, Commissioner Gordon saying "we," right? Like in Batman Begins, there are like certain, and it's just moments. I wouldn't say that was necessarily humor, but moments of levity. I hope, like, when something is so incredibly dark, like I think of like, the early DC films, right? Like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, like very little humor at all, which kind of like leads to like, after a while, like, can we just break the tension a little bit? Like sometimes these circumstances are somewhat ridiculous. So that concerns me. The other thing is a David Fincher, like Batman movie really appeals to me. Having said that, it's not R-rated, right? I mean, look, they got freaking toys, at Target, and they've got cars and Hot Wheels and stuff. This is not going to be completely, I mean, Batman is the number one IP for a superhero is Spider-Man. Number two, Batman. If you go by just merchandise, licensing, and whatnot, those are the two top licensed superhero characters. Spider-Man number one, Batman number two. So it's dark to a point, right? But this is also supposed to kick off Pattinson. There'd been rumors that it'll be a trilogy, which I would not complain about. I mean, I'm looking here at a shelf of like tons of Batman stuff. I don't know if you can see that on my shelf there. It's like that's the Batman shelf. It's only Batman stuff. But I hope it kicks off a trilogy, but it's kind of a rebooting. We still have the leftovers from the Zack Snyderverse, right? We're getting another Wonder Woman movie, another Aquaman movie, another Flash movie. That's the Snyderverse. Once that gets wiped away, is this the new universe?
Well, again, listen, when you look at Matt Reeves, a lot of people are going to say Cloverfield. The film for me that you're going to look at, and certainly Apes, the last two Apes. He did not do Apes 1. He did Dawn, which is, I think, the best of those films by far. I think that is head and shoulders the best of the Apes films. And then, of course, The Last War. But I look at Let Me In, okay, the remake of Let the Right One In. And if you watch that film, and that's why I say people really need to watch it. When I'm reading this text, my mind goes back to that film, which came out in 2010, Matt Reeves remaking the vampire, young kids and vampires, and just, it's essentially a horror film. I mean, it is some dark shit that happens in that film. And I think he betters the original. But if you watch that film, there is no humor in that film, right? It is straight up just dark drama, horror. And from the initial test screenings of the Batman, you kept hearing it's a horror film. Very clearly, we're in that realm when you're talking about Zodiac, Silence of the Lambs, Chinatown. You're talking about dark drama, right? No humor. That's just what you're going to get here. And again, for me, it's going to work. For you, it's probably going to work. But it's the controversy that's kind of come from this is the fact that people don't, they're going to take their kids, and it's not going to be a movie for families. You can just tell from what I'm reading in this text and everything that we've seen in the trailers, this is not a kid's movie. And I think that's where the controversy is. Warner Brothers, why did you leave all the families on the sideline and make this movie that is really for that is, you know, almost, it's a hard PG-13, right? It's as close as you're going to get to R as possible, is my guess.
Well,
when you're talking about two of the films are serial killer films that we're comparing these two. Hello, that's horror. So that's the thing, is that's where the controversy is going to be, is the families are going to be pissed off.
So you think that's where the controversy is? Because, I mean, look, in the trailer, you see someone murdered by having their face duct taped and they suffocate to death. I mean, that's freaking, I mean, that's, you know, Silence of the Lambs type of like
Seven-esque. It looks like Seven, right?
Yeah,
that's what I think too. You see a ton of Seven in that. Again,
yeah, all that influence. So I mean, I actually hope that that's where the controversy comes from. The controversy is that the movie should be R, but because it's a major studio, they're skating through with a PG-13. Some quick comments. Frank the Bunny 666 says, controversial in quotes. I'm guessing it means it toes the current political leftist line and will get backlash from actual Batman fans. That's possible. The new trailer really has me concerned, where a woman walks up to Bruce Wayne and it's like, how come you haven't contributed enough to causes? And it's like, all the other Batman trailers I thought were great. And as soon as that came in, I just went like, oh, so this is where we're going. So I'm reading.
Well, it depends on his response, honestly.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. I'm reading Christian Toto's book called Virtue Bombs. And I'm going to have Christian Toto's actually going to be a guest on in the coming weeks to talk about his book once I'm done reading it. But it's about how basically how woke culture is destroying the movies, or at least mainstream Hollywood films. Mark O'Brien says, still have another incarnation of the Joker to come in the Batman 2, or could Joaquin Phoenix be in the Batman? Could Joaquin Phoenix be the Joker for this incarnation of the Batman? I think there's questions there. Mark O'Brien also says, looks like it will be dark and complex over 3 hours, which should hopefully be good. I agree. I mean, know.
You know, we talked about Nolan. I mean, were the Nolan films really directed toward kids? And was there really a concern about the marketing of toys and stuff from the Nolan films?
Yes, absolutely. I think they were. There's even like every single one of the Nolan Batman movies has a scene where Batman talks to a kid or a kid is involved. There is a like, you know, 7-8-year-old kid that the Batman has an exchange with. Remember when Batman Begins, he kind of gives him, you know, so, you know, Nolan's movies were accessible. I think this could definitely be going to a place where a Batman film has never gone before. Google Plus Sucks Balls says, if they wanted to go dark, then that PG-13 rating feels like it's not going to be that bad. They should have pulled off a Joker and earned that R rating.
No, that's not going to happen. He's got to understand these. You got to understand, guys. You can't say that. You have to. I mean, to say that tells me that you don't understand business. Okay, they are making a Batman film. Okay, this is not Joker. This is a different. They let Todd Phillips make his movie, and yes, it is the king of comedy and Taxi Driver combined. We're not arguing that. Okay, I'm so tired of that discussion. But the fact that Warner Brothers let him have the Joker jam scissors into dude's eye and then repeatedly into his skull, and then blow Robert De Niro's brains out on television. If you don't understand how that is pushing the envelope, if you can't wrap that around your brain, that is so far outside of what a normal studio would allow a director to do with a comic book film, essentially, at the end of the day, in Joker, you got to get, that's what the danger is. And you're not going to have Batman do the same things. It's Batman. You can walk up to a line, but you cannot make Batman R. You just can't. They didn't make Birds of Prey, right? You've got it. Birds of Prey was, look what happened with that, right? Birds of Prey completely tanked. I mean, it didn't do nearly what they expected. So these films, you got to walk up to the line. And I think that's what we're going to see here. You're going to see a film that walks up to the edge, right? You can still have a serial killer. They've had plenty of PG-13 horror films, but you don't cross over, because once you do, you lose. You have no chance to get families. Warner Bros. Would rather have families come in and be pissed, right, and get their money, than not come in at all. So that's business.
I think there's going to be a lot of bloodless violence. You're going to see a lot of gunshots. You're not going to see. So you're going to see a lot of violence. You're not going to see blood as a result. Corn Julio says, "I don't like these comparisons they are drawing." I get it. I just think that like it's not unlike the comic book. If you know Alan Moore's comic book, The Killing Joke, which I strongly recommend that you read, it's the best origin tale for the Joker ever in graphic novel form. I mean, The Killing Joke is, I mean, it's a classic right up there with The Dark Knight Returns, and it's dark. I mean, it shows.
Didn't they make an animated feature on that one?
They did. It was terrible. The animated feature of the Killing Joke comic is do not watch that. It's a complete, it adds all these subplots that weren't in the comic book. The original Alan Moore comic book, Alan Moore, probably one of the greatest comic book writers of all time. Seriously, changed the industry, which with The Watchmen, he wrote some of the best issues of certain heroes, you know, when you know, he was writing Swamp Thing, when he even wrote some Superman comics that are amazing. So when Alan Moore touches anything, he did V for Vendetta. When Alan Moore touches anything, he takes it beyond the medium. So I see kind of those influences. So The Killing Joke might be something, if you've never read that comic book, pick it up. I only buy like old comics, or like when I go to a comic convention now, I always go for the What If long box, because What If is one of my favorite series. What if the Fantastic Four had different powers? Yes, Eric knows that I'm super nerdy about this stuff, but Eric,
you're such a nerd. But listen, I want to get back to drill. Let's drill down one more time just about the rating. Okay. So let's just use an example. Original Suicide Squad was PG-13, opens with over 100 million. Okay. Second one, The Suicide Squad, opens. Now, granted, it was on HBO Max, same thing at date, as they say. So it's a little bit of a different situation, but it opens in the 30s, right? That's an R-rated movie. You eliminate a huge portion of your audience when you flip the switch from PG-13 to R. Warner Brothers understands that very clearly, because obviously we're talking about Suicide Squad. I just mentioned Birds of Prey, again, a movie that was R, that if it's PG-13 makes more money. There's just ways that you can cut. You said there's going to be killings, there's going to be violence, but it's going to be, you know, cutaway. It's going to be, they know how the MPA rates and how to walk up again to the edge without going over, because that makes all the difference in the world in available audience. You know, who's going to be in for that initial round of tickets. And yes, families will be in, and then they'll come out and go, God damn, I can't believe Warner Brothers did this to us. But at least they got their money. That's kind of the takeaway here.
That opening weekend.
Go to R. You just can't do it. Yeah, you can't do it. And I think Joker was a different thing, a different animal altogether. But again, I think when I go back and I look at what source said, who's seen it, and by the way, so here's what Warner Brothers is doing with the Batman right now. They are showing it to people in the industry, friends of Matt Reeves, friends of Warner Brothers. They screen it there on the lot. Chris, you've been there. Alan, you've been there. Multiple screening rooms there. They screen it for, you know, small crowd every day, and they're just getting general feedback and get the word out there. But clearly there's an embargo in place, which means you cannot discuss the film until they say a certain date. Like we just discussed Death on the Nile, saw it last night. I can't go into details because the embargo is on Tuesday. So Batman's embargo will probably be, I guess, at least a week before it opens, maybe before. I'm going to guess Warner Brothers starts showing it to press in the next 10 days. So, you know, 2 weeks from last Tuesday. So sometime in the next 2 weeks to 10 days, you're going to start getting some press people that see it, but they might still have to be embargoed and not be able to discuss the film.
100% they'll be embargoed. I do think it's one of those that I fully expected to get decent reviews just based on things I've heard, not just from you, but from other people. I know other people that are involved that know what a big Batman fan I am. So there, my friend who is actually working on the movie says he can't wait for me to see it, which is weird. Buck Teeth,
I'll say that.
Buck Teeth Bandit says also the movie is literally rated a 15 in the UK, which is kind of their version of like PG-13.
They just kind of go age levels here.
Yeah, and then Google Plus Sucks Balls says as long as it does not end up being like a CW DC TV show, I'm good. Yeah. I'm with you, Google.
Yeah, absolutely.
Balls. You know, yeah, CW. I was in for like the first 2 seasons of The Flash, and I watched some of Arrow, and then once it becomes dumb and spirals behind, I wonder who's dating who. Does she like him or does he like her? And it's just like, yeah, I don't care. This is, include romance as a subplot, but when that kind of takes everything over, it's kind of annoying. And Frank the Bunny 666 says they also gave Joker no funding, so it didn't matter that they couldn't get a family audience on top of being a different beast. Yeah. That's correct. Think about it. Joker was made for $50 million, which not a small budget, but it made $1 billion and won Oscars. Mm-hmm. Okay. Joaquin Phoenix for Best Actor. So they might be going that route. Let's wrap up our conversation on the Batman here.
Let me ask this. I will say, after reading Erick's tweet, I think I'm more interested in seeing the movie than I was before, even after seeing the trailer. And so I think I'm much more excited about seeing it. Is that the sense you're getting as well?
That's what listen, for me too. I think the trailers I've seen so many times now from being a member of the AMC A-list, which if you're not, you need to do for $24. It's the best $24 a month you'll ever spend. But watching that trailer so many times, I'm like, okay, I see what we're doing here. But again, I got to keep remembering, to me, that Matt Reeves is one of the most underrated directors that we have. And what this film is going to do is open up everyone's eye. Oh, Matt Reeves. Like, yeah, we should have been talking about Matt Reeves again back when Let Me In came out in 2010. When you see something like that, a work like that, when you remake a film that's already, many think, is a classic film, in Let the Right One In, and you remake it and you do, in my estimation, as good, I think better, even make that source material better and more relatable and just it's over the top, then you need to be talking about Matt Reeves. And clearly Fox saw that when they hired him to do the last 2 Apes films. Is you see the talent, and once you see that, that's just, you have it. That doesn't disappear. And I think this film is going to finally cement Matt Reeves as a guy we talk about as a Nolan, Villeneuve, these directors at the top of their game, and that makes me excited because he seems like a very cool, down-to-earth dude, and from all indications he's pretty easy to work with, which you don't hear about with David Fincher. Some of these directors, that he's collaborative, and I think Warner Brothers is going to end up having a very long relationship with Matt Reeves.
So you think that they're already talking about signing him to a sequel?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you've got to see how it does box office. You just do. But I'm sure the discussions have started. But as long as this opens at big, which I believe it will, you're looking at least, I'm thinking 150 plus. That's a big number. And then you're set. Once you get that, you go ahead and lock down the sequel. Kind of like what they did with Dune. They waited a little bit, but in general, they already knew they were going to make it. I think they know they're going to do it. They just need to make sure the movie's not going to completely tank, which it's not. And then you've got your sequel. But I think even beyond that, you look at what Warner Brothers did with Nolan. They let him make other films. They made Tenet and Inception and all these things in addition to The Dark Knight. Once you lock him into one film, you want to have a relationship with him, because every time that Matt Reeves or Nolan or any of these directors are at the top of the game, you want to be in on that action because they're going to deliver something that people want to watch.